Our next speaker is going to talk about a very important subject in community management, community building. We all know that our communities are not the same exact person throughout our entire communities. We have different kinds of identities, different kinds of personalities, people who are interested in different things. So our next speaker is going to dive into how to think about the different identities, how to identify the different personas in your community, and how to build your community experience in a way that is focused on those different kinds of people. She's the managing director for the Center of Interdisciplinarity at Michigan State University. She holds a Ph.D. in chemistry and nanotechnology and was an American Association for the Advancement of Science Community Engagement Fellow in 2017. Her research focuses on community engagement and on applications of machine learning to team science. Please give me a 12 out of 10. CMX Summit, welcome to Stephanie Vasko.
Dedicated to all the pretty girls.
Are you all excited to talk about personas? Are you as excited as I am to be up here? Because that was really exciting. So the first thing I want to do is answer two questions. What on earth is a Center for Interdisciplinarity? And who am I? So we'll start there. So the MSU Center for Interdisciplinarity is a pretty new center. We started last August. We live in the College of Arts and Letters at Michigan State. Our intellectual sponsor is the philosophy department. And we interpret the word interdisciplinary pretty broadly. So basically, if you're a faculty member or a student and you're working across disciplines, you're doing the type of work that we support. So the Center for Interdisciplinarity started with one member, an interim director, he's still there. And it started with the following goals, right? Enhancing grants, leading research, and empowering graduates. So I've worked at MSU for 3 years, and I'm gonna give you a quick little, the most Michigander thing I have ever done in my life, and I'm gonna make a hand map. So Michigan State is in the middle of Michigan. In case you didn't know that, we're not over here, we're not in Detroit. I live in the middle of Michigan. Right? Woo, go green, go white. So when I came into Michigan State, I came in with a lot of different identities. So as you heard earlier, I have a Ph.D. in chemistry and nanotechnology. That's at the top of the clock. If we go clockwise, I'm also a practicing artist in Lansing. I live in Lansing proper, so that picture off the desk of that really nice downtown building, that's the view from the deck of my apartment. I literally live in the city. I am Lansing. Right, that's true. So I'm also a freelance writer. I'm a fitness enthusiast. I just signed up for one of those 70.3 Ironmans, and I'm freaked out about it. So if anyone has any advice, hit me up later. But I was also a community engagement fellow, and I was a postdoc at MSU. So I came into the position of being managing director with all of these things together, and I looked at this logo, and I was like, oh, this logo's missing some things. Anyone want to guess what this logo's missing? So Michigan State's a land-grant university, which means that we are basically mandated to give back to the community. And every single one of the activities that's listed in this logo are activities that involve being part of a community. So one of the first things I did in my job was make sure that building community was at the center of what we did as a center. So I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, well, I said community, that's one community. But really, there's 3 different communities that we serve. We now have a staff of 5. We have 3 postdocs who work for us. So we have a community that's just our center. We have the community that we serve at Michigan State, so the researchers and the students. And then we have the local community, because Michigan State doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? We're close to the capital city of Michigan. We're centered in East Lansing. We should be working with those local communities as well, especially when we're doing things like interdisciplinarity, when we're doing things that are looking to solve global grand challenges. So if I think about each one of those communities, I can sit here and I can build out personas for them, right? I can say okay, what's your job title? You're a local community leader. What are your demographics? What are your tasks? What are you motivated by? So I color-coded these, right? And we're gonna think blue is community. What if you're an MSU professor and you're also served by the Center for Interdisciplinarity? Well, you live in that green MSU universe, but you probably also live in the community. You might have kids who go to school in the area. You might serve on local boards. You might be involved in the local arts council like I am. So you're gonna fit into 2 of those. If you're one of our postdocs, you're gonna fit into all 3 of those. So it really got me thinking that you can't just serve one of these communities. You have to serve all of these communities when you work at a center like this. And so you have all of these communities, you have all of your identities. What do you do when you have to build a persona for yourself, the managing director? And you're every color that's up there, right? I am red, green, and blue across the board. So I think to myself, how can I map those different parts of who I am onto the different communities that I serve, and then use those roles that I play in different communities to enhance the life of the Center for Interdisciplinarity? So if I'm in the community doing art, I'm obviously always blue, but there are activities like just being at the center that are always gonna be all three of those colors. And I'm lucky because I work for Michigan State, and at Michigan State we have a type of position called an academic specialist, and our college is really supportive of ideas like building community. So I have a position where I'm not bound by publish or perish. I'm actually really supported to do things like outreach and research and community engagement, and those are things that the college values, so I recognize like how special this kind of position is. But when I serve in this position, here's the biggest takeaway. There's no way to sit at the intersection without being your full, authentic, complete self with your multiple personas. So I never thought I was cool until people told me I was cool, and I was like, oh my God, you told me I'm cool. But you know what? Everyone is cool and unique. I've talked to a bunch of you here, and you all do really interesting things, even outside your jobs. So guess what we're gonna do right now? We're gonna do a little affirmation. So we're all gonna say, I am cool and unique. Are you ready? All right, I am cool and unique. Yes, you are. Remember that when you go back to your communities, because your communities are full of authentic people as well. So leverage your personas to grow and nourish your communities. So how are we gonna do that? I'm gonna give you 5 takeaways, because I like takeaways in talks. I don't know about you all. First thing to do is create equity. So if I think about just our C4I group, for example, there's 5 of us, interim director, managing director, a research postdoc, someone who focuses on ethics in their postdoc, and someone who looks at the intersection of art and science in their postdoc. All of us have PhDs from different backgrounds, but all of us have at least 15% of our time to pursue our own individual research. And what's really cool about that is those are the things that excite us, right? And those are the things that we can then bring the excitement into the community and maybe find new ways to enhance the MSU community. Because someone at MSU might be like, that's a really cool idea, I wanna try that too. And those are the kind of conversations I get to have with our faculty and students is, hey, someone in the group's doing research on this. And then it's like, well, I'm doing research on this. How can we connect you further to get you further along in meeting and networking and growing your own network through our center? Everyone also participates in community engagement if they work at the center. So this is a new thing. We're trying it out right now. Everyone's doing social. Everyone's going to events. Everyone's reporting. Everyone has to live tweet once this semester to try and give it a shot. But everyone in our community is working on engaging with the other communities. When we think about our center as a place that's building into the local community and into the community of our university, one of the things we did was seek input on our strategic plan. So one of the groups that we subsumed when we became the Center for Interdisciplinarity is the MSU Toolbox Project, now called the Toolbox Dialogue Initiative. And that uses philosophical prompts to guide conversations and do co-creation activities to get teams to build trust or navigate terms or learn to really get and unpack those things that are often implicit and make them explicit. So we used that strategy, invited members of our campus, members of the community, and students to come in and tell us exactly what they wanted from a mission and vision for a center like this. And that's how we've built our mission and vision, and it's gonna go live this month. The next thing I wanna suggest is designing non-structured programming. One of the activities that we offer is a thing called an interdisciplinary WriteIn, and the title's probably gonna change on this. But these are built on something that a lot of departments and centers on the Michigan State campus do, most notably university outreach and engagement. And there are these times that you make a date with yourself, just like 3 hours, where you come and write. And normally it was, oh, you come and write. And our definition of that has changed. You might, if you're doing interdisciplinary work, be working on a play. You might need to come talk to people about how to write a grant. You might just wanna sit in a room with people who do weird stuff like you do. And you've never had that opportunity before. And that's actually the biggest thing we've got from these, is that people get to come and hang out and meet people they never would have met from campus, because we don't get that space a lot. We don't make those dates with ourselves. We don't practice that self-care of taking the time for us to do the things that we're interested in. And so when you come to a place where other people have made that time, you're starting to find those really cool, like-minded individuals. And I can't not show a slide of donuts because we're in Portland, but we always get fancy donuts for our events. And I also want to plug living in a small-sized capital city like Lansing. I have at least 2 opportunities any day of the week to go to a local business and buy donuts that conform to everyone's food needs. So I'm all about small business in Lansing because it's really, really welcoming and really supportive of the community members that we have. So what about outcomes that benefit multiple communities? So I want to talk a little bit longer about this slide. And in the first picture, I'm wearing this white shirt and I'm blacksmithing as part of an event that we have in Lansing that's called Be a Tourist in Your Own Town. And I'm doing this at the Lansing Makers Network, and I'm wearing a shirt for another project I work on at MSU, which is called Food at MSU. And that's a project that seeks to help consumers learn more about food and to make MSU a place where you can come and get some information about food facts. And we do a lot of community programming with Food at MSU as well, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later. But I go to these events, and these are where I just get to hang out and talk to people doing the things I love, one of which is being a practicing artist. So living in the capital city, right, I get to do cool things like make billboards for the city that go up of my work. And I get to exhibit at galleries that are in town with other cool artists in town. And none of this, right, is my actual job. And do things like be an arts night out and really support the local arts scene when I'm not sitting in my desk at MSU. But what's really helpful about that is, one, if you see this gallery flyer, I got to be in that show because I met someone who helped me through that through my running group. And so, okay, it's made a connection through running group, helped me with art. Now this art connection is gonna help our new graduate fellows. So we launched this program on the 1st of October, and it's a transdisciplinary grad fellows program. 6 students are gonna be chosen by the 15th of November. And what's going to happen is that they're going to work with the Arts Council of Greater Lansing as one of our partners. So I've taken that relationship that I've cultivated and developed and brought it into my MSU sphere. But what we're also doing is bringing that MSU sphere into the local community. So these 3 students are gonna partner with the Arts Council, and they're gonna work on looking at economic development in small-sized or mid-sized capital cities for a semester. And they're gonna do takeaways that benefit both of them. So they're going to meet together, they're going to get trained together, they're going to develop ideas together and come up with deliverables that serve all of them. So we've got graduate students who might not wanna continue on in academia. What kind of cool products could they make? They could do things like apps, and that's something that we want to negotiate with our community partners. So we make them equal members of the process. The next thing I want to talk about is meeting your members where they live and work. So I've really hyped the fact that I live in Lansing, right? This is probably the first time I have ever done that. This Lansing Pride thing is new for me. I am not from Michigan, by the way, if that's not obvious from my accent a little bit. I'm from Jersey. So this is taking some getting used to in my Michigander. But meeting members where they live and work. I live in downtown Lansing. I like living in downtown Lansing because I get to meet a whole bunch of cool people, and I can go out and go to a baseball game, and I can go to the Arts Council, and I can go downtown and do yoga. But I talked a little bit about our Food at MSU program. So at Food at MSU, we recently ran a seed grant program. And here's what you had to do. You had to be a group that was working on an interdisciplinary problem with a community partner. And so in order to even apply for the grant, this was something you had to do. And you might say, well, how do I find a community partner? How do I get out there and meet people in the community in order to do that? We host events that are out there in the community. So the thing that we did was host something called the Food at MSU Research Mixer. And it was a kickoff event for our seed grant program. We held it at the Lansing Brewing Company. The Lansing Brewing Company is in downtown Lansing. And we held it at night. And we held it at night for a reason. And it's that we wanted faculty members to feel like they weren't just doing another part of their job, but they really got to be a member of their actual community where they lived. So you could arrange childcare. You could make sure that your evening activities were done. You could plan around it. It wasn't something that was obligated. And you could come and have fun and meet new people. So we had lightning talks from individuals from both the College of Arts and Letters, where I'm at, and the College of Ag and Natural Resources. And it served as an opportunity for people really to get to know each other in a really different context. And so I don't know about everyone else, but does anyone have a folder that they keep where they keep the really good evidence of the things that they've done? If you don't have one of these, make one of these today. It's really important on the days that things aren't going well to be able to go back to your folder and be like, yes, I have done amazing good things. This has been a good year. Okay, cool. So this is a tweet from my dean about what an amazing event it was. And that made me really happy because we got, in one of our bottom pictures here, you can see some of the deans are out having a good time, fixing faculty members, breaking down some of those traditional power structure barriers that we might have because we've moved it out of the traditional location and started meeting people where they actually live. Which is cool, right? Who wouldn't want to go to this? Also, one of my favorite parts of this event was you got one free drink ticket. If you wanted another, you had to go talk to someone, and then both of you had to come talk to me about what you talked about, and it couldn't be someone you knew because I knew everyone at this event. So. And that actually really helped. People were really incentivized at that event to meet people and come up with really cool new ideas. And we saw a lot of that happen at that event. But the last thing I want to talk about is respecting the boundaries for yourself and for your community members. And so Tiffany talked a bit about this from a self-care perspective. I showed you a whole bunch of dimensions of my personality that I use when I consider my personas and then consider what parts of them I'm going to work in with what parts of the community. But that's not a comprehensive list of every part of who I am, because I'm not going to bring every part of who I am into the job. There are parts that are just for me. There are relationships that I want to protect. So when your employees or you or your community members want to protect those relationships and set those boundaries, let that happen. It's a really important takeaway that I think sometimes we forget about, especially with things like email, right? I know a lot of people are like having to check their phone the whole time they're here. Make your own boundaries for that too. Make boundaries for when people from your community can contact you. This is a very, very important thing because otherwise you're going to hit that burnout percentage that we talked about earlier. So, short takeaways. Identify your community and design personas for them. So that's your first step if you're going to do this. Define your own personas and then start mapping them to the communities. So I find this really fun. I do it all the time. I make some of the people that we work with do them because sometimes you uncover really cool relationships in your net of identities that you haven't seen before. So that top green circle, as I'm looking back, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a scientist, but those freelance articles at the bottom, without that science background, I wouldn't be able to write those, right? So it's those connections, it's being able to play the networks that you meet in each, because you're going to find really cool connections in all of those to really bring together the way that your community can spread and grow and try new things. So we're going to go back to the sweet takeaways. You and your communities are full, authentic people. Leverage those identities. Leverage your own identities. Have fun. One of the best parts about my job is that I get to have fun because I get to be me. I get to wear dresses that I made. I get to go out in the community, right? I get to host really cool events at different places and meet and make friends in a community that then sustains me as somebody who does community work, right? Building that network of people that I really enjoy working with, that I really enjoy collaborating with, lets me just get deep into this job more and more as the time goes on. So create equity for both your staff, yourself, and your audience if you can. Non-structured programming. Let there be events where people can just hang out together. Let there be events where you're not forced to be on, where you're not different, where you're just letting people be them. But also design opportunities that have rewards for multiple groups. So if the Arts Council is getting something out of it and the grad students are getting something out of it and I'm getting something out of it, that's a really cool opportunity. Meet members where they live and work. Make sure when you're designing opportunities for your communities, that you're being where your communities are. So one of the things I like to think about is, are members of my community able to get to this location, right? So Lansing has not the greatest public transportation system, so that's a consideration you have to make. So those are the kind of factors you want to think about when you're thinking about meeting your members where they work and live. And finally, respect your boundaries. So respect yours, respect your employees, respect those of your community members. And with that, thank you all.